Monday, and the Trump bastard is loose in the country. And, man, the damage he is doing. Incredible damage. Farmers are getting it now, and I think the Department of Defense is next, Department of Energy. They're on the cutting block, chopping block. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Oh, and the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. It's all being sliced and diced by the orange bastard. This is what America wanted. Look, Kamala Harris got 75 million votes. Trump got 77 million votes. And I think about all the people who decided not to vote because of being pissed off about certain aspect of certain project or lack of one from the Biden administration. So they decided to, fuck you, I'm going to stay home. Well, okay. Especially, the states in the so-called Farm Bill of the United States, Nebraska and Iowa and where else? Missouri, the Farm Belt states, Kansas. They are in a world of shit right now because of Trump, what Trump has done to the not just all these different agencies that he has gutted, but the Department of Agriculture, too. Farmers in this country. We talked about farmers in South Africa. Farmers in this country. Well, they're starting to realize, all these so-called farm states in the Farm Belt of the United States, whether I named them off, Iowa and parts of Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, the Farm Belt. Well, farmers, most of whom I would guess, I don't have the number in front of me, but I would guess that probably 95% of them, not unlike South Africa, are white. Well, these farmers now are missing millions, tens of millions of dollars of funding that they were promised by the Department of Agriculture under Joe Biden. And this is in spite of promises by the orange bastard when he took over that a federal funding freeze would not apply to the projects that directly benefit individuals like farmers, right? One of the things the orange filth did on his first day in office, he ordered the Department of Agriculture to freeze funds for several programs that were in Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. Remember that? That passed with bipartisan support, not a lot of Republican support, but it passed with Republican support in 2022. It was Biden's signature clean energy and health care law. It was an amazing piece of legislation for the American public, the effects of which are just, until this filthy Nazi fuck Donald Trump took office, the effects of that law were just beginning to be felt in this country. And that freeze that the orange bastard ordered stopped funding for the Agriculture Department's Environmental Quality Incentives Program. That's what it was called. And that program was designed to help farmers address natural resource concerns on their land. And the Rural Energy for America program, which provided financial assistance for farmers to improve their infrastructure. Now, the infrastructure could be solar panels. It could be a new irrigation system. It could be a plowing or harrowing or any kind of system that would improve the quality of the investment that the farmers, the quantity, I should say, the investment that farmers have been making in this country. That's what the Inflation Reduction Act, that part of it, was designed to do. And farmers who signed contracts with the Department of Agriculture related to those programs that were passed in the Biden administration, they paid upfront, the farmers did, to build fencing, plant new crops, install renewable energy systems, and the guarantee that they got from the Inflation Reduction Act from the Biden administration was that the federal government would issue grants and loan guarantees to cover at least part of those costs. Now with that money frozen, the farmers are fucked, you might say. Well, put it a little more gently, they're on the hook. That's how the Washington Post puts it. Well, the farmers are now on the hook. Where did that phrase ever come from? And the Post cites a woman in Maryland who runs a flower farm. Granted, she's not raising edible crops, but she runs a flower farm. Her name is Laura Beth Resnick. And this woman is quoted as saying she signed a contract for the Department of Agriculture to cover half of a nearly $75,000 solar panel installation on her flower farm. And then in late January, last month, a couple of weeks ago, she said she was told her reimbursement payment was rejected because of what the orange son of a bitch had ordered. Ms. Resnick said, quote, "I really don't know what we're going to do. It just feels like I can't even really think about it," end quote. That's just one example. You know how news gathering organizations will pick one person who is suffering the tortures of the damned because of what this orange filthy fuck has done in this country and what he has planned for this country. Now, the Department of Agriculture has also been instructed to and has halted funding for other programs, including scientific research grants in agriculture. We don't want any science, it's all in the Bible. Do what Jesus said. Climate smart crops. What the hell's a climate smart crop, right? We don't need that. There's no global warming. That's according to a letter sent to the agency, the Department of Agriculture. Last Thursday, from House Democrats who are on the Agriculture and Appropriations Committees. Those Democrats want to know what the fuck is going on. Why are you doing this to American farmers? Well, the quick answer is because Trump will do anything to destroy everything that Joe Biden had anything to do with, because Trump is a fucking psycho. That is clear now, right? He is the worst kind of psycho. The letter from the Democrats said, quote, "Pulling the rug out from these recipients runs counter to the mission of the Department of Agriculture and will quickly and significantly cripple economic development in rural America," end quote. Well, with all due respect to farm families, which, we all rely on, I'm so tempted to say to these farm families, fuck you. What did you expect when you voted for this son of a bitch? Did you really think, Mr. and Mrs. Farmer, that Donald Trump was going to honor or continue Biden policies? Did you? Well, if you did, here's the fart with the lump in it. Surprise, surprise. Donald Jesus Christ God Trump is not going to honor anything that Joe Biden had anything to do with. The Trump administration spokesfuckers had said repeatedly that this freeze on agricultural funding, targeting the Department of Agriculture, and other financial assistance programs would not affect benefits that go directly to individuals like, let me guess, farmers. And farmers, what about it? You voted for this orange miserable Nazi. Now, the only thing saving the farmers right now is a temporary order from a federal judge stopping the Trump administration from this pause. But it's a temporary stop order. Over the weekend, farmers reported that their funding remained frozen, even though a judge, issued this ruling. And that is the newest thing happening right now. J.D. Vance, Trump's pet ape, and Elon Musk and the orange bastard have decided that there is no reason for the executive branch to do a fucking thing that the judicial branch orders done. They're referring to it as an encroachment on executive power, stepping out of the boundaries of three separate branches of government. But of course, I'm not telling you anything, gentle listener, but the objective of the Trump-Musk administration is to eliminate the checks and balances that were put in place in the Constitution. Get rid of them. What the fuck? Get rid of them. So the King, God, Christ, Lord Jesus, Donald Trump can do what he pleases. And that his pet ape, J.D. Vance, and the South African Nazi and his minions can participate in doing whatever the fuck they want to do. So the farmers are looking around saying, wait a minute, we read that the federal judge, halted that order from Trump. But we still can't get the money that was promised to us. Well, there's a reason for that. You farm folks you bought into a bunch of bullshit. I mean, what made you think that Trump was going to tell the truth where it concerned you? I mean, he lies about every fucking thing. He's a cheat. He's a rapist. He's a thug. But you honestly felt, I would ask my farmers if I knew any. They're not my farmers, you know what I'm saying. But did you honestly think, Mr. and Mrs. Farm Family, that Trump was going to carve out a little space and protect you so he could protect his votes? You don't seem to understand, Farm Family. Trump told the Christian assholes months ago, elect me and you won't have to worry about another election. So, farm families, this is just the realization, the fulfillment of what Trump was threatening months ago. He doesn't give a fuck about you, farmers, because he's not going to have to face you for your votes ever again. Well, you might say it's because he's term limited. Are you kidding? Term limited? There's only one or two ways to get Trump out of the White House. And as far as voting him out, no, that's not going to happen. It's not. Who among the group of farmers in this country, I don't care what the hell you do, factory workers, farmer union members, teachers, whoever, and even you Christians who are just so put upon by society, do you really think that Trump is going to, in 3+ years, just step down and say, okay, well, I had my fun, time for me to go? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.